Good afternoon. Welcome to Footsteps of the Past, the story of Albert Clarke, Part 2, The Rise of Albert Clarke. Before we get to that part, let me take you back. So, young Will Mellor had sadly died by the time his father had arrived at the Harrow Inn. By the time the local constable had arrived, Will's body was in the side room of the Harrow. The constable apprehended young Albert, and also the knife, which was a child's penknife, was in the possession at the time of William Clarke, who was Albert's older brother. The knife was given over to the constable. The coroner's inquiry was postponed so that a solicitor, Mr. G.H. King of Portsea, could be appointed for Albert. The inquiry resumed at the Harrow on Saturday morning, the 7th of August. A post-mortem by a Dr. Ticehurst later showed that the stab had been between the 5th and 6th rib. The blade had pierced the liver and the right cavity of the heart, resulting in a hemorrhage, which had been the cause of death. When questioned by Clarke's solicitor, he said that it was possible for a sudden jerk caused by the struggling for the knife to produce this effect. The coroner summed up the case for the jury, saying that they must not be influenced by the fact that they knew both the boys. They must decide whether there had been any intention. The room was cleared for a local jury to consider its verdict. After 15 minutes or so, the foreman of the jury announced a verdict of manslaughter. Clarke was taken into custody and committed for trial. Bail was granted to Clarke's father for 50 shillings and two sureties at 25 shillings each. Clarke, who had treated the matter lightly and laughed frequently during the coroner's proceedings, was then released. Now, let me take you to Hampshire Assizes, which was in Winchester, on the 16th of November 1880. The case went to Winchester Assize Court. The details reported in the Portsmouth Evening News on 17th of November, also in the Hampshire Advertiser. Mr. Ford, the steep schoolmaster, was called to the Assizes Court. He gave the opinion that Albert, although intellectually backward, was intelligent enough to understand the consequences of his actions. He also gave Albert a good character. Albert's lawyer argued in his defence that he was an inoffensive and well-behaved boy who had been attacked by William, and the threats he made were just brag and bluster. The knifing was accidental, occurring solely because of the struggle for the knife. As Clarke had a good character, he was acquitted at the assizes and allowed to go free. The judge commended him to never use a knife again, and he promised not to do so. Albert's treatment by the court at this time shows a steady improvement in the treatment of children in, in courts in the Victorian era. Earlier in the 19th century, children were treated similarly to adults, and many minor crimes were punishable by death. Right, so the rise of Albert Clarke begins. So nothing is found in the census of Albert Clarke for a few years around this area. Albert eventually popped up in London. Albert married an Agnes Mary, a blacksmith's daughter in London. The 1901 census showed that Albert, 31, was working in a coachman and living with his wife at 14A Pembridge Crescent, Kensington. In 1904, Albert and his brother Frank bought 2 plots of land at the western end of Church Road, Steep. Numbers 1 and 2 Pembridge Villas were built there. Pembridge Villas still stand. They are number 9 and number 10 Church Road. Albert, after divorcing his first wife and moving back and building the villas or the cottages that were named after the villas, eventually became employed by the railway. In Petersfield, opposite the railway station, there used to be a railway hotel. This is sadly no longer there, and a fair few years ago now gave way to retirement accommodation. Opposite there now, the building in which Albert lived is actually now in the process of being demolished. Today is 2nd of August 2025. Albert met another young lady who he married. And they had 2 children. This was around about 19 and 19. Albert sadly died in 1925. We do not have any records for where he is buried at present, but we are looking for them. Albert left around £2,000 back then in his will, which went to his brother Frank. So this concludes Albert Clarke's story. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. The next video will be concentrating more on the Clarke family, what happened to the family as a whole after the incident of the murder of Will Mellosh. So please join me again next time here in what today is a sunny steep. Until then, thank you, take care.